For years, people have been making 3D projects on Scratch, a 2D game engine that's made to teach children coding, but it hasn't always been like that. Various Scratchers have managed to push Scratch beyond its limits and create crazy projects, going from this to this. So let's take a look at the evolution of 3D games on Scratch. Attempts to make 3D projects date back to 2007, the year when Scratch was released. With the tools available back then, it was very hard to create 3D projects. But as Scratch gained more attention, people wanted to push beyond 2D and bring Scratch to its limits, creating stuff which seemed impossible. They wanted to make 3D games. But what defines a 3D program? It's the process of turning 3D data into 2D shapes on your screen, tricking your brain into believing that it's seeing 3D geometry. You can use tricks to get 3D looking geometry with 2D data, with things like raycasting. The pen extension was perfect for this, and Scratchers started making the first 3D projects. What happens when you try to simulate 3D without making the game 3D? The result is a fake 3D game. This is what most Scratch projects did back then, as they tried to simulate a 3D scene. They did this by using the change size block to try and simulate how perspective works in 3D games. It resulted in broken perspectives and weird effects, yet this didn't hold people back, as we will see in a moment. Despite the inaccuracies of these fake 3D games, you can still find a lot of these projects. It's honestly fascinating how people manage to get creative with such rendering techniques. Later on, people started implementing 2.5D, which is essentially a 3D game without being able to rotate your camera. This simplified the coding process a lot, but made for some impressive games. This also opened the doors for arcade-style road rendering, allowing early 3D racing games to emerge. This era was held back by the limitations of the current Scratch, but that would soon change. Scratch 2.0 released on May 9th, 2013, and it completely changed the landscape for 3D games. This was due to the run without screen refresh option. It lets you run scripts instantly without delay between blocks. This caused a revolution, allowing for much more complicated engines. One of these engines was raycasting. Raycasting is drawing 2D maps as if they were 3D, and we do that by using rays to scan a 2D map. It gives us a scene that looks 3D, when in reality the data is 2D. The map is usually a 2D grid list or a 1D array, but it can also be a costume. Raycasting would change everything. Griffpatch was a relatively unknown Scratcher back then. He decided to try out raycasting. He released his 3D maze raycaster, which blew up. I mean, this thing literally still holds up today. What made it so special is that it had different heights and wall colours, moving lifts, and was super fast running on native Scratch. Griffpatch would continue to make groundbreaking games for years, becoming the most followed Scratcher ever. Another big addition in this era was Thoughtforus, which sped up projects by a significant amount. That also led us to back then, creating real 3D renderers that used triangles was a problem. Performance was a very limiting factor, but with Scratch 2's release, triangles slowly became the more superior rendering method. You see, with raycasting, you couldn't overlap things vertically or have complicated geometry like pyramids or slopes. However, with triangles, you get freedom in all axes, and you can use 3D models from other games. Triangle fillers started emerging quickly and people were going crazy with it. One of the most notable was the use of W0997. He merged both 3D and gameplay successfully in many of his projects in an era of mostly demos and tests. While triangles allow for more freedom, they weren't perfect. For one, people couldn't texture the triangles due to how expensive on performance it was. You also couldn't have too many on screen at once. Due to this, some found triangles very limiting, but just as people were losing hope, things became much worse. In 2019, when Scratch 3 dropped, its different structure caused many 3D programs to break. Because of this, people couldn't play lots of 3D games made in older versions of Scratch, and the community was devastated. This seemed to be the end of 3D. It seemed that Scratch Team had killed off the 3D community. But how did this happen? Something Scratch 3.0 added was mobile support, but due to the lower power these devices have, Scratch Team had to make some compromises for Scratch to run on them. One of these compromises was rewriting the code for Scratch, but this caused unintended issues and broke some 3D games. Additionally, the larger editor blocks and different block colours made many Scratch veterans believe the editor was bloated and confusing. This led to a huge portion of the technical Scratch community to disappear. Things were looking grim for the 3D scene, but with the bad comes the good. Just as all hope seemed lost, a user by the name of Garmin Muffin changed Scratch forever. Garmin Muffin made Turbowarp. It's a local mod for Scratch that speeds up any project by over 100 times. It does that by compiling code, and the best part is all you need to run it was click a link with the project's ID. Turbowarp exploded with everything that was once deemed impossible becoming a reality. Textured triangle projects, raycasters with insane render distances, rasterizers, and even real-time ray tracers became a thing. People realised that Scratch, a silly block-based game maker, had way more potential than they ever thought. The fact that you could reduce lag or load and store lists so easily, or find blocks for debugging, took Turbowarp to the next level. Turbowarp took everything wrong with Scratch 3 and turned it into what people really wanted. This took the 3D community to heights never seen before, and the future of 3D on Scratch was looking bright. Turbowarp grew a massive community, and people kept pushing the limits on what was possible. Things stayed like this, but now in 2026, 3D might change forever. Again. People have been making 3D games for years now, but what about a 3D engine? Yep, something like Unity or Godot. Well, a scratcher called Gloop has been working on an engine that lets you easily make 3D games on it, all on Turbowarp, with no custom extensions. It's the most hyped Scratch project ever. This project is called Glue 3D. It has a model editor, customizable UI, a Scratch styled editor, and way more. For example, the Bone system lets you animate characters, and the physics engine lets you easily simulate gravity. And to top it off, it has a polished look and feel. As of releasing this video, Glue 3D is still in beta, but who knows what crazy impact it will have on the 3D community once released. "3D on Scratch has had an inspiring story. From the era of fake 3D to raycasting and full 3D models, people have always found ways to push Scratch beyond its limits in crazy ways, reshaping what we thought was possible. But alongside the game, Scratch itself has evolved too. Check out this video on the history of Scratch to find out. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. Challenger 10,000 out.